This month at The Art of Education, we've been exploring the idea of paying it forward, how gratitude can turn into action, how we uplift each other in the art education profession. You've probably seen this theme running through everything that we're sharing right now. The podcast conversations here, the new articles in the magazine, and the stories and questions and support that's happening every day inside the Art of Ed community. And speaking of the Art of Ed community, as we tell you almost every week, that is the place to be if you're looking for a place to find your people. I'm talking about other art teachers who get it, who are learning alongside you, and who want to help you grow. Okay, we want you there in the Art of Ed community. It's one of the best spaces we have for sharing, supporting, and truly paying it forward. And today in this podcast from the archives, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. This episode is from last year. Kyle Wood is joining me to dig into the gratitude we feel for this profession and the simple, meaningful ways that we all can give back to the field of art education. Here is that episode. Welcome to Art Ed Radio, the podcast for art teachers. This show is produced by the Art of Education University, and I'm your host, Tim Bogantz. Last week, I talked with Dr. Teresa Haugen about advocacy in the art room and how we can advocate for our programs, for the arts, and for the benefit of our students. Today's conversation will be somewhat adjacent, but we're coming at it from a different angle. Kyle Wood will be joining me in just a minute to talk about what we can do to give back to the field of art education. So with Thanksgiving coming next week, I've been thinking about all the things that I'm grateful for. And I'm a big believer in how gratefulness can lead to positive action. Because when we express our gratitude, and we feel uplifted, but we also feel indebted. Like we want to pay something back, or maybe in this case, pay it forward. So that is kind of going to be the framing for our conversation today. You know, what we are grateful for within this community of art educators, and there's a lot to be grateful for, okay, but also the actions we can take to give back to art ed if we want to pay it forward. So let me bring on Kyle, and we can start talking about some of these ideas. Kyle Wood is back on the show, joining me again. Kyle, how are you?
I am doing great. I am well into, the fall, and just I like this time of year because I feel like kids are getting settled into routines, and it's just things are getting smooth, especially with like the younger grades.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the fall. Like outside of the classroom, I love just the weather. I love stepping on crunchy leaves. However, it's been very damp lately, so the leaves are not as crunchy. It's a little bit disappointing. But I'm with you on all of the school things. Like this is the time where things do start to run smoothly. You feel like you have routines down. You feel like you can really dive into stuff. So glad to hear that's going well for you. And I don't know, I guess our whole conversation today is just going to be about gratitude and thankfulness and paying it forward for lack of a better term. But, I guess I would love to start before we get into that of just how things are going for you. I feel like you're a very regular guest at this point. So I'd love to know just kind of what's going on with your classroom, what's new with your teaching, what's going on, what's new with your podcast.
Well, I mean, I guess to start with gratitude, I'm thankful that you keep bringing me back because I love having these conversations. I love that, like, because as an elementary teacher, I'm the only one in my building, and it's like,
right.
It's so nice to have this conversation, this connection where it's like I can nerd out with a fellow art teacher who gets into this stuff, and like I love those opportunities. the art teacher at my children's school was just texting me about stuff and like wanting to get together to do some PD together.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And like planning that out. And like, I'm really grateful that I'm reaching that point in my career where I'm not sitting alone at the conference, and like, you know, I'm starting to meet other people and know other people and make those connections and know who I can talk to learn about the things that I don't know about yet, but I'm curious about, and all of that. So I'm in a very happy place with a lot of stuff professionally, and I have the sweetest family in the world. Like, my kids are the greatest human beings that I am so lucky to know, and I want to be just like them when I grow up. So
I love it. No, I love hearing all of that. That's really good. So hopefully, I feel like for 98% of the audience, that's really going to warm their heart, and then like 2% of the people are going to be like, "This is too cheesy," and they've shut it off already. But that's okay. You know, we'll move on with our gratitude and our things that we love, and kind of appreciate those things today. And I guess let's start. Like you said, you're in a good place professionally, you know, and I feel like you've worked hard at that. And I think that's something that a lot of us could be doing more of, is trying to build that art teacher community, trying to build those connections. And like you said, when you're all alone in your building, that's very, very difficult. And so any place we can find connections, any place we can find community, I think that's really helpful. So I would encourage as many people as possible to go out and do that. But just looking at, you know, your career, like you and I have both been doing this art education thing for a while. But, you know, what are you thankful for when it comes to all of your years in art teaching? Like, what are you thankful for in your career?
Okay, so the thing that really brought me to a different space was actually he wasn't officially a mentor, but like when I first started teaching in the district that I'm teaching in, I was split between schools, and the art teacher who was in the other school had been there for, you know, a decade, you know, experienced, knew the ropes. And he showed me a lot of tricks, you know, to make lessons better. But then like we just got along so well that we started experimenting with stuff like before Zoom was a thing. We were like sending messages back and forth to each other's classrooms and trying to video conference between classes. And like that led to like pilot programs that we started doing. And then we collaborated on a video project. And like, just to date myself and how long I've been doing this, back during the Obama administration, they had a White House student film festival, and like my kids got to go to that because of the work that we were doing.
I don't think I ever knew that.
They only did it for like 3 years, but the first year they did it, we were an official selection. And so awesome. Like it was a super cool experience. But what I was getting at there was just like being open to make a connection with another art teacher and work collaboratively. And like I was starting and new to the district, but like before that, if I'm being 100% honest, I had a little bit of an overly inflated sense of my own skill. Like by third year teaching, I was like, okay, first year I got through it. Second year, I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing. Third year, it's like, I got this down. Yeah. And then having to start over in a new district and seeing what other people were doing was a little bit humbling, but being able to accept that help from another person and accept another person's insights and viewpoints was a tremendous growth moment for me. And it led to so much growth that I never would have thought was possible back when I thought I was good at this job.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I like that. And I think the willingness to help, you know, from the mentor's perspective is something I'd like to talk about a little bit more later on. But I think that is something that is vital to keep moving this profession forward. And I think that, it kind of along those same lines, just the willingness to share, the willingness to help other people who are also facing the same things is something that I appreciate when it comes to art education. It took me a while to realize, hey, I should start going to state conferences. I should start going to national conferences when I can. But then once I did, I saw how many opportunities were out there to connect, to learn from other people, to, just kind of see what other people were doing and allow them to share that with me. And that was, like you said, so incredibly valuable, such a growth moment when you finally realize that there's so much out there and there's so many things that people can share. And once you kind of tap into that, it makes everybody better. And so I think that's something that, we should do more of as well. So yeah, I don't know. Any other thoughts on that? Just the idea of connecting, or the idea of sharing out what we have?
Well, I think, the other thing that I've come to realize is that, I was really intimidated when I first started going to those conferences. Like I didn't know anybody, and outside of like the couple of people in my district I know, obviously, but when I went to the conferences, the first time, I think I saw one person that I kind of recognized, and it was just like, it was very intimidating, because the first time I went to those conferences, I was thinking like, these people are all so much smarter and more experienced than I am. And I think the thing that I realized is, just like so many other avenues in life, everybody has something to offer. Yes. And we need to recognize that and appreciate that in others. But also recognize and appreciate that in ourselves. And sometimes I feel like we don't give ourselves that permission to brag a little bit and to recognize that, like, we're good at this. We have something that can help someone else. And it's really not even boastful. It's generous to be sharing your expertise once you've learned that, like, okay, this is how I get a kid to stop throwing the paper towel in the sink. You're listening, you figured that out. Please email me, because I don't know.
No, I think that's right, though, because we all have good solutions for different problems. Like, we're all creative people. Like, we teach art, we are creative, and we're going to come up with creative solutions. And it's good to share those out. And like you said, it's not bragging. It's not saying, look how great I am. It's saying, hey, I might have figured this out. It may work for you too. And just being willing to share that. And, I, like you said, it goes both ways. There are so many things we can learn from other people, but we also have a few things that we can share ourselves. And I guess that brings me to my next question, which is just the idea of, helping other people out, because people who feel gratitude, people who, are appreciative, are more likely to pay it forward, and I'm definitely of that mindset. I like to spend a lot of time appreciating what I have. I like to spend a lot of time thinking about how we can share, how we can pay that forward. So I have a list of ideas, but I'll put the question to you first. What are some ways, or like, how can we pay it forward professionally? Like, how do we give back to the field of art education?
So I always start by thinking in terms of, the smallest sphere, and then work our way out as we become more comfortable. So like it starts in your classroom, and once you feel like you're comfortable in your classroom, because first year you're in survival mode, and Absolutely. You don't need to take on that pressure to help other people at the same time. Like, get yourself afloat first, and that's perfectly okay. But I think starting by just like making those connections, finding your people, even on a small scale, doing the lesson swap and sharing those hacks and stuff like that, it makes a big difference. Being that person on social media who, like, I'm if you've seen my stuff on social media, you can see how uncomfortable I am in front of the camera. I'm not that person who has that bubbly personality and can
Right,
share
right.
stuff, but I'm like, okay, here is how you can rehydrate a brick of clay and it'll work for you. It may not be fun to look at, but this will work. And that's okay too. Like whatever you can put out there that's going to help someone or put a smile on someone's face. Like, you know, sharing the art teacher outfits I see all the time and stuff.
Yeah,
Like, nobody wants to see pictures of my outfits, but like it's nice when I see like, wow, you coordinated really well. And like,
yeah, yeah.
it anything that brings a smile to someone, I applaud. But I suppose we should probably get into like the more formal aspects, like, you know, taking on that mentorship role. Like, you know, I talked initially about my buddy Chuck, who listeners of my
Mhm.
podcast have heard come on so many times because
Yeah.
he's my person who's always like, okay, someone canceled, I need to record an interview in an hour, be ready to talk, and he's always there with a yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes such a difference. Taking on those mentor roles when you feel like you know what you're doing, being able to give that lifeline, give that feedback, and do it for others.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I have loved that role and the opportunities that I've had to do that. I remember when I first started teaching, my wife started at the same time. We both had mentors. We were the mentees, and she had somebody in her subject area that like they became fast friends. My wife learned everything. They are still friends 20 some years later, which is amazing. And I had somebody who didn't know anything about art and like barely talked to me, and it felt like a huge missed opportunity. And so when I had the chance, after, you know, like you talked about, after I got my feet wet, after I felt like I kind of knew what I was doing, the opportunity came about to mentor someone. And I feel like that's just such a valuable thing for both of you, because not only are you able to share your knowledge, share your experience, share your ideas, you're also able to put yourself in their shoes and able to remember what it was like to be a first year teacher and think about, you know, oh, these are the things you struggle with. And it helps you to reflect on your own teaching and think about why you're doing what you do. And I think that can be worthwhile for both of you. And I think kind of along those same lines, I really enjoyed the opportunity to have student teachers in my classroom. And I feel like that's a great opportunity to, again, impart some knowledge and some experience, but also, you know, it's good for students to hear a different voice and hear a different, you know, thought on projects, on creativity, on every aspect of the process. And so having those additional voices is something that I think is valuable for everybody. And so I don't know, have you had student teachers before? Like, have you gotten to experience that? Like, what are your thoughts on having student teachers?
So I haven't had full on student teachers. I've had the practicum students who are
Right.
doing observations and teach a couple of lessons.
Yeah.
Every time after they do that, like, because in Illinois at least, we get certified, like, or maybe it's changed since I went through the process. I had to do like elementary and a high school placement, and we had to
Yes.
go to different
Same here.
stuff, you know. So,
Yeah.
I haven't seen someone through the whole process. I've had like 2 practicum students do observations, both positive experiences,
Mhm.
both very wildly different students personality wise and different ideas. And
Yeah.
the thing that I found was like, I not only felt really good about being able to give some guidance and give some help to someone who's just trying to figure out this world of education.
Mhm.
I also learned a lot from them because of both what you said about being like, you have to be very deliberate and thoughtful in terms of how you explain what you're doing. And then you start to realize like, oh yeah, maybe I should be doing it this way, the way I'm telling them to do it.
Yeah.
But also like, you have another artist in your room who has new
Yes.
ideas that you have not even considered. And, the thing that worries me most is the thing that I'm blind to, because I'm already working to correct all the faults that I know about,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
there's so much that it never even would have occurred to me. And I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it makes everyone better when you have the chance to really analyze what you're doing, share those ideas, see new perspectives. I think that's all really valuable. Another thing I was thinking about, and something you mentioned as far as PD, is just sharing lessons and ideas. I think that's a great way for us to, again, just pass on that knowledge and that experience. I love to share lessons. I love to share ideas. People may use them, they may not. Doesn't really matter to me, but I really love putting those ideas together and just putting them out there because, if that can help even a few people, then I think that's really valuable. And I think everybody has the opportunity to share, obviously not everybody has a podcast where they can do, random episodes of their favorite lessons, but everybody has the opportunity to share in their school or in their district or at the state level. Just there are different times in professional development, different connections you have with teachers that you can share your ideas, or even if it's on social media, just passing ideas back and forth. We can add to what each other are doing. We can bring new ideas. We can bring new perspectives. And I think sharing that out can, again, be helpful for everyone. I guess I just talked for 2 minutes about it, but Kyle, any other thoughts about sharing ideas, sharing lessons, and what that can bring us?
No, I think you're hitting it. Like, I just want to say I am so thankful to all of you who share your stuff on social media. That's how I use social media. I'm not like good at posting stuff regularly. I'm not good at
you're
talking.
Lurking. Are you a lurker?
I use it as a research tool.
Okay.
I don't use it for I generally don't use it for a lot of like happy, relaxing interaction. I use it like I've got a class coming in here in an hour and I hate everything that I have ever done. And so I need something new. And then I see, a colleague of mine has posted a delightful, Jeff Koons inspired balloon dog drawing. And I'm like, yep, that's what I'm doing next hour. I love seeing that stuff, and I'm so grateful for everyone who puts out, a good YouTube channel, or, the AOE obviously has great YouTube content that I have stolen from. And, I love the stuff that, especially videos. I'm such a big fan of the videos where I can actually see and understand the process. So thank you to all of us who do that.
Yes, a big thank you to everybody who puts any resources like that together, because like I said, we are making each other better. I've also thought about, paying it forward through advocating just for art ed in general, like, going to school board meetings and talking about accomplishments or what your kids are doing, just any chance you have to brag on your kids. Let's say they make it into, I don't know, a White House Student Film Festival. Like, you got to get out there and promote that and advocate that, because it helps talk about, how the arts are helpful, like why they're so important. And, it doesn't need to be the school board, but you can even just educate your colleagues in the building about what you do with art, what your kids are accomplishing with art. Take those things to your assistant principal, your principal, anybody else in your district, and kind of talk about the cool things that you were doing, what kids are getting out of your classroom, and just let people share, or, share with people, and help them to understand what we were doing in art and why it's so valuable. So, do you do things like that? Like, what does advocacy look like for you?
Okay, so I have talked at school board meetings. Usually not like I've been to school board meetings when they're doing like, okay, a recognition for this or whatever. But in all honesty, I think in my experience, the most effective advocacy is actually asking for help. Is actually asking for stuff, because you build relationships with people when, like, when you're working together for a common cause. And when you reach out to a local, charitable organization, there's a local educational association that like has given me grants for stuff before, and then like I take pictures of how I use that grant money, and they can use that at their fundraisers, and they love it because the art stuff that they fund always photographs beautifully. So they can they can bring stuff in. And then there's like happy smiling kids using these things that they bought for the program. And so they become the advocates instead of me talking to the community saying, look at this great thing I'm doing. It's a trusted organization saying, look at this great thing that's happening because of your support. And then everybody feels good and invested in it. And along similar lines, I have found that parent volunteers are like the greatest advocates for my program. And so when I was younger, I used to be hesitant to call in volunteers because I thought like asking for reinforcements is showing that I can't handle the job. And
Right.
I felt like it signaled
feeling.
some lacking in me. And the thing I realized, especially once I became a parent, is like those volunteers are not coming in because they think you can't handle passing out water dishes. They're not coming in because they are loving to wipe up slop and spills. They're coming in because they want that moment where they see their kids smile as they enter the room, and you're giving them that opportunity. You're giving them that warm, fuzzy moment and that memory, and they're going to look at whatever you're doing in the classroom with a very generous eye. And then that creates that positive chatter. And like I have had parent volunteers who have written to my admin saying like, this lesson that Mr. Wood did, because I only call in the parent volunteers for like my home run lessons,
Right.
It's not my hardest lessons. It's the ones that I know will go smoothly and everyone's gonna feel good about. But I've had parents write to like my admin saying like, this was the coolest experience and I'm so glad. And that's the best advocacy, when you get other stakeholders to recognize that value. So just bringing in other people as partners and letting them feel like they're a part of the success, they're going to want to brag about your program because they're a part of it then.
Yeah, that is wonderfully said. And Kyle, another reason I appreciate always having you on is because you end the episode so very well. I don't even have to say anything after that. So I appreciate you putting all of those thoughts together and just kind of sharing your perspective on all of these things. Can you stick around for just a bit longer and we'll play a quick game of this or that?
I've always got time.
Okay, we are now going to play a quick round of this or that art history edition, because Kyle, you have the Who Arted podcast, so I could not think of a better topic than art history. Are you ready to go?
I am ready, although I gotta say this is like the highest pressure I think I've ever felt talking to you, because I feel like you're going to, my weaknesses. You're going to expose me for the fraud that I am.
No judgment here. No judgment here. We're just running right through these. I need to know who you prefer. Let's start with Keith Haring or Jean-Michel Basquiat.
Oh, I'm going Keith Haring.
Right.
Honestly, no shade to either, but Keith Haring I absolutely love, because the older I get, the more I just appreciate something that is earnest and positive. And Basquiat, like there's so much good in his work, but there's also just so much layering to it, and Haring's is so direct, and I love that. I love the directness and the earnestness, and there's something I can't get enough of.
Okay. Self-portraits or landscapes?
Oh, to teach or to create?
From art history, would you rather see people's self-portraits or would you rather see their landscapes?
Oh, this is going to depend on who it is, because that's so much. I'm gonna. I'm going to say the self-portrait.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I like something that reveals somebody's true nature and their character, and whether it's like a representational or an abstracted, I probably favor the abstracted and more conceptual, but
Okay. All right. Manet or Monet?
oh, Monet. Monet was my entry point into art. I still, to this day, remember second grade art awareness, seeing Monet's work, and I went home and I remember saying to my dad, like, I know what I want to do. I want to be an artist. And my dad looking at me and just being like, you're gonna be poor. Which he is such a good sport about every time I tell that story, because the fuller story is he was just like warning me, like, most artists struggle, and if you're for that, I support you in it. But it,
That's good. All right. Napoleon leading the army over the Alps, Jacques-Louis David version or Kehinde Wiley version?
Oh. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with the Wiley. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I think Wiley is one of those artists that, like, I'm starting to feel like I've seen his work too much, and so I'm starting to like pull back from it a little bit. But
interesting.
But I also do like. I do like what he's doing with a lot of the backdrops that are becoming so much more, like there's a lot of creativity in it that I appreciate, the different way of presenting the subject.
All right. Surrealism or Impressionism?
I'm still going to go. My heart is always with Impressionism. My head starts to go a little bit towards Surrealism, but I'm going with Impressionism.
All right. I love that we have discovered your one true love in art history, and it's Claude Monet. This is fantastic. All right. And finally, Frida Kahlo or Diego Rivera?
Ooh. I'm going to go with Frida. Frida's work is a little bit more interesting to me, and Diego, while I appreciate a lot of ideas behind what he was doing, I feel like there's too much that I've read about him as a person,
right? And it's tough to get over that.
Well, the artist and biography thing, I've always looked at a little bit like, okay, is the artist's biography intertwined with their work? Mm-hmm. And, when I look at the City of Industry murals and then I read about like how he was treating his workers, like it's hard for me to get past that. Yeah. Whereas other stuff, I can separate them mentally. And Frida, obviously you can't separate her biography from her work because her most famous work was very autobiographical.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, that is all I have for you. No wrong answers on this or that, but somehow you and I agreed on all 6 of these. So I'm excited that we're aligned on all those. So cool. Well, Kyle, thanks for playing.
Tremendously validating. Thank you.
Well, thank you for playing. Thank you for coming on the podcast, sharing all of your ideas. I appreciate all of it, as always.
Oh, it's great. Thank you for having me.
I will go ahead and wrap it up because, as always, Kyle and I talk for way too long, but I enjoyed our conversation. I enjoyed playing this or that at the end. And of course, more than anything, I hope we are able to give you some ideas that might work for you somewhere throughout the conversation today. And I hope you can take a minute to be grateful about what art education has given you and what you might want to do if you were to pay it forward. Art Ed Radio is produced by the Art of Education University with audio engineering from Michael Crocker. Thank you, as always, for listening to the show. We would love for you to share this episode with anybody who might find it worthwhile. And if you're loving the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. We appreciate the ratings and the reviews. We will be back the first week of December with another mailbag episode with Amanda and me. So if you have any questions you want answered, email me at timothybogatz@theartofeducation.edu or podcasts@theartofeducation.edu. We will talk to you then.